Gorilla whale. Gorilla whale. Hello, friends of the show. Welcome to episode 5 of From the Middle. We are middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. I am Kory Hubble.
Dillon Hubble.
Candelilla.
And we are excited to be doing another episode, sharing with you guys. We got a lot to cover. But before we get into too much of the meat of our conversation today, I got some fun fact checks. Ooh. Fact checks from the middle. Fact checks.
We're going to record that to start laying that over. Yeah, that's real good.
I just made that up on the spot. So if you listen to episode 3.
You were Aziz Ansari until you had the little slip there. That was
Do
great.
we want to roll the segment cover again?
Yeah, let's definitely.
Fact check.
Fact check from the middle. Fact check. Fact check from episode 3. Some of you on social media didn't believe that Kendall actually bought a bird leash. That was real. 100% of what you hear on From the Middle is factual. It might be our take on something that happened, but yeah, there's a photo of Toby with his leash. If you don't follow us on our social media channels, that's a great plug for that. We are on all social media channels at From the Mid Pod. So yes, Kendall did really buy a bird leash. Number 2, Blue from the movie Rio is a Spix macaw. I said that he was not a macaw. I was in error. He is in fact a macaw.
You know, yeah, I went back and actually looked at some pictures of that bird. What was his name again?
Blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's totally
a macaw,
Totally
which
a
is
macaw.
still a parrot.
Yeah.
A macaw is a parrot. So that's fun. So you're learning and having fun. Also, fun fact, aves, I believe that's pronounced aves, A-V-E-S, is the class of vertebrates, which comprises the birds, not aviary. I said aviary. That would be the enclosure.
Yeah, an aviary is a place that you take your bird if you want to fly them without a leash.
Right. Right. So that would be an aviary. Aves would be the entire class of the species of birds. So
and
that's
an avian is an adjective.
Avian is an adjective. So when it's possible, we're going to circle back on some of the statements we make on From the Middle and make sure that you get the actual facts. From episode 4, we've heard that if you listen to episode 4, we talked about celebrities a little bit and which ones that we've heard are nice. We hear that Hugh Jackman is said to be very nice. So
also, Chris Pratt.
Also, Chris Pratt.
We forgot about.
Yeah.
That absolutely gives me that vibe.
So we can't confirm or deny that, but we've just heard through the grapevine that Hugh Jackman and Chris Pratt are super nice in person. Okay. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Great.
We have our first ever guest on From the Middle, and I'm super excited to introduce my buddy, Greg Dillow. We've been friends for a really long time. He is to blame or thank for my ever-increasing interest in motorcycles, and we are going to talk about Godzilla, King of Monsters, on this episode, and he is our resident Gojira expert.
Good day. Good to be here.
So hi, Greg.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me to the treehouse, guys.
I see you brought your matching pajamas. Fantastic.
We did.
Fantastic.
My Godzilla pillowcase and everything. We're good.
Greg, do you want to tell our friends of the show how we met and kind of...
How long has it been? Almost 15 years, 16 years?
Yeah, 2003 is when I came to Columbus. So
yeah, I was working with your wife, Sherry,
Yep.
at our place of employment at that time. And actually, we still work there together. So I actually knew Sherry first. And she was telling me about you one day, about you going to Columbus School of Art and Design. You were an illustrator. I've always had a bit of an interest in, drawing and art. I'm into photography, like music. So I thought, hey, it'd be cool to meet him. Bring him in sometime. We'll go out and have lunch. And that happened. And here we are still to this day.
Still to this day, somehow
Yeah.
he's stayed my friend.
Well, you did that internship there
Yes.
for the summer.
Yep.
We had offices across the hall from each other. You
Yep.
were listening to QFM 96. I appreciated your appreciation of classic rock.
Yep.
I thought there's potential there for a friendship if he likes that kind of music.
Check the major box for you.
Yeah, it was. It was a big box, yes. And, come over and watch you. You were illustrating that little book.
A
for
coloring
us.
book for the
Yeah.
organization we were
The
working
children
for.
in Haiti and Honduras, and I was just amazed at your talent and how you just drew like from your head. It was like you put a piece of tracing paper down on a photo or a picture that was already drawn, and you were just drawing it. I can't do that. I can draw a stick figure halfway decent. So that was some of the early memories that I have of our friendship.
One of my earliest memories is Sherry saying that you had a contact, albeit thin, at Pixar.
Yeah, very
And
thin.
when I heard that, because that was my dream job at the time, so when I heard that, I probably used our friendship
was it
selfishly.
ulterior motive? You really weren't into me.
Just at the beginning.
My contact,
Just at the beginning,
Pixar.
I was like, "Wait a minute, this guy knows somebody at Pixar."
yeah. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. You're going to have to earn that on your own. I
No,
guess.
it's fine. All good, and we've stayed friends ever since. We ride motorcycles together. Well, correction, I ride one of his motorcycles while he rides one of the others.
Yeah, we took the class together. That was fun.
Took the class together. If you're thinking of getting your motorcycle endorsement, what am I doing on this episode?
You got to get your endorsement.
You got to get your endorsement. Hey, what are you doing over here? If you are interested in getting your motorcycle endorsement, I highly recommend doing it through the Department of Motor Vehicles Public Safety course. It's a lot cheaper. You can get it done in a couple days.
$50.
$50 as opposed to like the Harley dealer over here charges like $350. Not to take business away from AD Farrow, but you do get to ride new Harleys if you do it through them. But yeah, it was cool. And so Greg has encouraged me. I've always seen him ride, and I'm like, man, that just looks so fun.
You guys watch
It
a lot
is.
of shows together too, right? Or at least a handful.
Yeah,
We did. It's kind of thinned out. We haven't
Yeah.
been keeping up on stuff lately, but we watched Sons of Anarchy together.
Yep.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, we would get together on typically like what night of the week was it? Sunday nights for a while.
Yeah.
Sunday nights, maybe
One of
have a
those
little
nights.
bourbon, watch Walking Dead or Sons of Anarchy, and it's good time. So anyway,
Catch up on that.
Greg's here. He's going to join in the conversation, and then we'll segue into Godzilla, King of Monsters. So, what's been going on? Anything been going on with you guys? You want to?
I did want to say one quick thing
Oh, yeah,
before
sorry.
we get started with these other guys. I appreciate being invited, but I do hope we can move this along a little quick. I do have fur babies at home. I don't like to leave them alone for too long. I have
Get
planned
out.
activities this afternoon, and
You monster!
I do.
You
need
know
to
I
get
hate
back
that term.
for my fur babies. Anyhow,
I actually got a little angry just
Would you
now.
like to say hi to the fur babies?
Oh, please, for the love.
You want to give them a shout out? Fans can send them cards.
that's okay. I do have 2 dogs, but they are dogs. They are not my children.
I mean, we know Toby's name, so you can at least give him a shout out.
Pets are people too.
Pets are people too.
No, no, they're not. Actually,
In fact, the big finger goes up. Actually,
no, they're not. People.
Yeah. Nope.
If you have seen the new Godzilla film, you would disagree.
Oh, well, we'll get to that.
People are pets too.
Okay.
Fish are people too. I have fish.
Scale babies.
Fish and dogs. Scale babies. Yeah.
Okay, what's up? What's up with you cats? What's been going on?
Cats. See that reference there? What's up with the cats?
Are we your fur babies?
PETA is already offended that you use cats in that way, so I just want you to know. I'll
It's
say
derogatory
just
towards cats.
just kind of a fun quick thing. So my wife and my mother-in-law went out of state to visit some of her family. It was a lot of fun. We took my daughter to the beach for the first time.
Oh, cool.
Ate sand almost right away, which is exactly what you'd expect. Not much. She'll be fine, I think. So no, she had a lot of fun. She got a kick in the waves a little bit. She's 16 months, so she's wee little, but it was fun watching her try to get through the sand, and it's kind of swallowing up her feet a little bit, but it was a good time. While we were there, so we check into the hotel, and I like to try to at least introduce myself to who's at the front desk or whatever in case I need something. I know who to ask for. So I introduced myself to the person at the front desk. And we go up to the room and drop our stuff off and come back down. And I said, hey, we're super hungry. We just happened to look up. There's a restaurant attached to a lodge, like all one building. Like I noticed right behind the hotel. Is it any good? And the person at the front desk is, oh yeah, I send people there all the time. I said, oh great, good food. Oh, I don't know, I've never been there. So I was confused a little because they send people there. Well, I've been here about 5 years, but I've never tried it myself, which was fun. So we did end up going to try it. 3 out of 5. I'll tell my front desk friend in the future. But so we get over there, and the place he's never tried in 5 years, and it was fine. It was weird. It was one of those like I don't think you see as many of them. Really low lit, lots of dark wood, massive, big, huge bar, like big. Everything's just really sprawled out. Lots of banquet rooms, really heavy, dark colors. 3 people at the bar, 1 person at a table.
Never.
The whole rest of the joint is empty.
Never a good sign.
Never a good sign. But it turns out it was probably 40 yards from the back corner of our hotel. We could have literally just like walked there faster than getting in the car and driving over. It was, yeah. So we get in there and we kind of order some wraps and sweet potato fries. Excuse me. So the server at one point comes over and my mother-in-law very politely asks, so there's a lodge here? Because it's attached to a lodge. And the server says, this is a restaurant.
Oh.
And so she kind of looks a little confused. Said, well, was there the sign? It says lodge, or, well, this is the restaurant. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
So what was the name on the sign? It said whatever lodge and restaurant. I'm sorry. So what's that then? And she said, oh, well, that's the lodge part. and so I'm just loving watching this unfold. And so she's like, oh, there is a lodge. Well, yeah, there's a lodge over there, but this is the restaurant is the answer. She gets back. So the best part is after the server leaves, my mother-in-law starts to ask the question, so she's very nice, starts to ask the question, did I ask that? And before she could even finish the sentence, probably going to be, did I ask that in a way that was unclear? Both my wife and I are instantly like, no, that wasn't on you. That was very clearly not a communication issue on your part. But yeah, food was fine. Have you guys ever had sweet potato fries where they do like the maple glaze? It's not like maple syrup, but it's like it's like a thicker, so
Nope.
it's that kind of sweet. Really?
I've had some interesting dips to
Yeah.
go along with.
Yeah, like a dip with a
Okay.
sweet potato fry, but like
So I
maple.
suppose you take that and drizzle over the top, then the answer is yes.
Okay.
But they didn't do that work for me. I had to do it.
Okay.
So I didn't leave
That's
a
fine.
tip.
Almost like with normal fries, the ketchup would come out in a cup, and then you've got like a maple thing.
Yeah.
So one thing I struggle with, I don't want to ask service industry people the questions that they get all the time that they're annoyed by. And if I do have one of those questions, I feel like I need to preface it in a way that they know I'm admitting I'm the idiot asking the question that you get a
Right,
million
right.
times to like, I got to hedge it a little bit. So I say, hey, I'm sure you've heard this, a million times, but have you guys ever tried like a maple, like dip glaze thing for the sweet potato fries? And there was no response immediately. And her eyes got a little big, like she didn't know what I was saying. And she's like, no, I'll have to tell the chef. So because of the awkwardness of her response, I feel like you need to sort of lighten up. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's just really good. No big deal. It's like a maple syrup, kind of thing, but it's not syrup. It's like a dip and you throw the fries in there. It's really good. And the look on her face as she continued to stare at me and not just leave like a normal interaction would have ended, is like she was the owner of the restaurant who had to decide in that moment whether they were going to add this to the menu or not. And so I don't know how to end it comfortably at that point. So I'm just like, yeah, super good. No big, kind of throwing my hand gesture up in the air. Yeah, it's just good. Try it sometime.
I'll leave you my email in case you want to.
I'm never going to be back. I didn't
When
care.
you come
Sounds
up
like
with
a
an
perfect-
answer, you can write it by me.
Yeah.
Sounds like the perfect time to ask about the lodge.
Yeah. I've already thrown this like huge wrench in there. So I'm like sort of pulling away and like looking away because I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. But maybe just throw it on the menu sometime. So it was, 3 out of 5 food experience for my front desk friend that I made. I love that, and actually he's made a comment about, head over there and have a bite. And my reaction was, yeah, probably have at least 3 or 4 while I'm there, if not more, maybe, depending on the quality of the food. So, yeah, it was an interesting experience. But I don't know; those are just some of the things. Like,
I love awkward social interactions. It's some of my favorite things.
I just feel like one of the things that I do regularly. The server comes over at a restaurant and wants to order. I'll instantly just say, to avoid all the inevitable conversation, is, hey, what do you guys want to drink? So-and-so around the table. And I'll just go, diet whatever. I just want to save that whole part of the conversation where you say Diet Pepsi, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we don't have Diet Pepsi. Is Diet Coke okay? Or the inverse. Or they want to know which one, Diet Coke versus Diet Zero. I try to save all of that conversation if I can help it, because it just feels entirely unnecessary. I just want diet whatever. Just they get it. It's efficient. It's robotic.
Yeah.
It's just the way that life should be. I don't know if you have any things like that.
Talk about overthinking. We thought Kory had a problem.
Well, in a way, this is a little bit of like how Sebastian Maniscalco describes, like, he just doesn't want to be a problem. He just like, get me in, get me out. I don't want anything. If the checkout thing at the grocery store won't ring the steak, he throws it on the counter. I don't need it.
I don't need it.
I don't need it. Not a big deal. Don't even want it.
It's not worth the trouble.
So the server comes over, diet whatever. I'm good. Just give me that. I'm fine. Whatever you want to put that cup under and fill with drink, fine. I'll take that.
That's funny.
I don't know if you have any of those, but that's one of mine.
Oh, I love it. But you're probably a little that way because of your experience in retail for so long. So you try to streamline the process for other people.
Yeah, let's just make everything as simple as possible. I'm a big fan of, can we just save 3 syllables and call it Spinachoke dip? Do we really need to write out spinach artichoke dip? If you put Spinachoke dip on a menu, everyone's going to know what it is. 0 questions are going to pop up for the server. I'm sorry, what's Spinachoke dip? Oh, I can understand your confusion. It's actually spinach artichoke dip. Oh, then I'd like that. I just feel like we can really save those syllables and just cut it down.
We got a title.
So what you look for in conversation with people is efficiency. That's what you're after is.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but there's certain contexts that especially a server's just trying to get in and out of there, right?
Is this conversation over?
If it saves somebody a headache and I can just throw out diet whatever, and I just assume at some point in my life a server has walked away and gone, thank you. I didn't have to go through the spiel. Actually, we don't have Diet Coke. We have Diet Pepsi. Is that okay? If not, we have Diet Sprite Zero, and you can. I just diet whatever. Fill the cup with a drink. Just fill it with whatever. I'm good.
But so if they have like 4 diet options, they're going to have follow-up questions
don't care.
for you.
Diet whatever.
But the point is that they will have follow-up questions.
Let me put it this way. For all the times that I've said that, no one's ever said, actually, we have 4 diet soda options.
Okay.
Which one of those would you like? They're
Really?
just going to go grab whatever is the dark soda of choice.
Yeah.
That's it. Super efficient. And if they're out of Diet Coke and they have Coke Zero, they're going to go get that. They don't care. They just wanted me to make it efficient. In my head and heart and mind.
Talk about things I have never thought about. Like normally when you say something along the lines of trying to be efficient, or like I can be like, yeah, I've had those thoughts before. Literally, I have. I'm like, wow, I have.
You are so weird. I have literally never, ever had a moment where I've thought about that.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, really nice time away. Enjoyed the beach.
Good.
And, had some solid food. So, that was...
solid-ish food.
We ate some other places that were better. That was fine, though.
That's okay.
I get it. Like, he probably gets a kickback from the bar or something. Not the lodge part. Just the restaurant.
Just the restaurant.
Just the
I have
restaurant.
a Diet Coke and a pillow, please.
It's
And I
diet whatever.
And I forgot my my toothpaste. If you could give me. Oh, this isn't the lodge. I'm sorry. I'll ask them for the pillow.
Yeah. So, that's what's new with me.
Kendall, what's up? What's been going on with you, man?
We had that garage sale.
Yeah.
That I don't know that I mentioned that, but I'd mentioned cleaning out our garage.
The result of your purging.
Yeah.
So that happened. We made like $15. In part because we lost money. I think the bank shorted us.
Do we have enough for a bird hat?
No. 15 will not buy me a bird.
I
hat.
imagine you drew on poster board one of those little thermometers, and with every sale, you were coloring in another section, and at the top was bird hat.
Should have done that. No, well, so like we had a friend bring over like a bunch of strollers, and we're done with the phase of childhood now.
Yeah.
So like we sold our stroller collection.
Oh, isn't that great when you leave a phase? When you get out of a phase, you're
Well,
like,
what's awesome with us is like all of our kids are the same ish. We have 3 kids, and they're all within 13 months of each other.
right.
And twins is how that happens if you're doing the math. And and point is, we ain't having any more kids, right?
Right.
So like all of our phase is like potty training phase. Everything is just like one giant phase that we never revisit.
Mm-hmm.
So like we have not had to hang on to anything, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, no. So we had no less than 8 strollers in our driveway trying to sell, because we had like a bunch from this other family that brought
Yep.
them over, and like. A lady came by and was looking at a couple of them, and she's like, "Really? Like just $15 for each of these?" We're like, "Yeah." She's like, "This is going to sound weird, but I want all of them."
You're right.
Okay. She's like, $15 each. I'll give them one. And then we're like, "Why do you want all of our strollers?" I mean, the answer is yes.
Right.
And it turns out like she is part of this nonprofit locally to the area that like furnishes things for mothers who need help and that kind of thing. And so like, and they all need strollers. And so that's
Yeah,
like a
that
big
makes
ticket
sense.
item that they really try to find and that kind of thing. And so we're like, give us $10 and you can have like all 6 of these.
Yeah.
So like that kind of thing.
Sure.
And then we sold a couple other bigger items, then a bunch of little stuff, which when we do garage sale, again, my point is to just get rid of
Right.
stuff. Whatever doesn't sell goes into the back of my truck and then disappears from
Right.
there.
Right.
So like, I mean, we're talking garage sale prices to the extreme. Nothing is more than $5.
You're not
Don't
trying to
care
turn
what
a
it is.
profit.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, like I said, I think like when we went to the bank to say, hey, we need some 1s, 5s, 10s, I think they probably shorted us a little bit. So we made like $15, which isn't enough to buy a hat. So we need to get this thing rolling.
Yeah.
So
much
if you're
are bird
listening,
hats?
you can donate to the show if you go to Anchor and find our show. Go ahead and find that. We'll get Kendall his bird hat.
I don't
How
even know
much-
if we have that set up, so you might not be able to do that. But
Well, we better, because I imagine the floodgates are going to.
How much is a typical bird hat or
I think
atypical?
I want to say that they were like $20, $30 each.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, do they have little straps?
They've got
around
little straps.
so
They have
don't lose
different
the hat in flight?
sizes.
Okay.
That's such a practical question
That's
that just
good.
sounds so funny.
Yeah, they've got little straps and they've got different sizes. They've got like 4 or 5 different sizes depending on your bird.
Small, medium, large,
Yeah,
extra large.
yeah. They like
extra,
attach a
extra
breed
large.
to it, so like it's like if you
Here's
have a
one for a
macaw,
macaw.
you want the big one.
Here's one for a brown-throated conure.
There you go.
Yeah, here's one for Tweety bird.
Which is a
Yeah.
canary. We've
Just a cat
established.
and not a parrot.
And not a parrot.
But the rest of those are all parrots.
Oh, that's funny.
So that happened. Got rid of a bunch of stuff. What else? Oh, I saw the Godzilla movie this morning.
Did your homework, huh?
I did. I mean, that's all I know about it, really, is what I saw this morning. And then, like, the original movie that I saw with some friends when I was in high school or something.
Long time ago,
rented
yeah.
it. That's all I know of that. But no, today is like my wife's been gone for a few days on a work trip. And so I've been with those 3 little kids by myself for a few days. And so my wife was just like, you should probably just leave.
Just go.
Get out of the house.
So I'm like, all right, there's a movie at 9:30 a.m. and I'm going to be there for it.
Nice.
How many other people were in the theater?
Like,
3?
there's like maybe 6, 8 of us,
Okay.
which is frankly probably more than I was even expecting. But that is the way to do a movie.
It is.
Get up early on a Saturday and go.
Catch that matinee.
Indeed. That's my life.
Cool.
Cool.
What about you, Kory?
Speaking of work trips, I got to go on a work trip this past week to an IndyCar race. My first ever. I think I mentioned it on the last episode. It was the DXC 600 at the Texas Motor Speedway. We had some meetings that we needed to facilitate, so there was some work involved, but this one was just a little more play than work. Usually the scale tips far in the work a direction, and there's very little play. But it was so cool. So we had some meetings Friday while we were doing our sort of prep. We had a lot of partners and colleagues there, and one of our colleagues came over and she goes, "Hey, stop everything. You guys are going to get a ride in pace cars on the track." And we're like, what? We didn't know. All we knew was we're doing some meetings and you're going to get to sit in a suite at the race. We didn't know that we would get any sort of preferential treatment. And so we got to ride in these pace cars. They were Camaros, and they went about 113 miles an hour around the track and did a couple laps. And that is the steepest bank. I think it's a 24-degree bank in turn 3 and 4. That's the steepest corner that IndyCars do in their whole circuit. So this track is sort of famous for that, and being one of the very few nighttime races. The race wasn't going to be until 8 p.m. the following night. So this is the day before. We get to ride in the pace cars. It was very cool. So then on the day of the actual race, we had another meeting that we ended up having to do sort of last minute. We went up to the suite, and the IndyCar winner, or the Indy 500 winner, Simon Pagenaud, came into the suite to meet with all these partners, and we got to just chat with them for he did like a 6-minute little talk, and we got photos with them. So pretty cool. Didn't know that was happening. And then the race starts. So we're watching the race. It was really awesome. They had these little radios where you could listen live during the race to the pit crew talk to the drivers. So you could just pick your favorite driver and listen to them talk to each other during the race.
That's fun.
So that was sort of like an added layer to experience that. Again, one of our colleagues came in and said, "Put the headphones down. You guys are going to get to go down to the pit live during the race and see a hot, I think it's called a hot track or a hot pit. And you guys are going to go to see that." We're like, "What?" So they whisk us away in this golf cart and take us under this tunnel. And then we pop up in the middle of the oval. And now we get to, and so we're down there live with all these pit crews getting to see live pit stops. It was so crazy. The cars go 230 miles an hour. So we were up the whole first half of the race. We're watching them go around the track, obviously from up there. And you don't appreciate how fast they're going till you're down at their level and they whiz by you. And you're like, holy crap.
Follow-up question. Has anyone ever in history been whisked away on a golf cart before?
114 miles an hour.
Has that ever happened?
It did in this case.
Swept me off my feet.
It was very cool. So then we're standing there in pit row, and right behind us is Victory Lane. And again, somebody on our team, one of our colleagues goes, "Hey, we're right here. I think we can get us access to Victory Lane." And we're like, "What?" There's just 15 or so laps at this point. So they call somebody or make some sort of connection. Somebody from inside this gated area says, "Are you guys with such and such?" And we're like, "Yeah." So they bring us into Victory Lane. Now we are next to network announcers and camera crews. All the other people are behind us 3 rows back in these little galleries of people who had special VIP seats. And again, I know nothing about IndyCar. I've never been to any race of this scale. The most I've ever experienced is back home near where we're from, Lima, Ohio, where they do sprint car races and dirt track stuff. So this is nothing that I've ever experienced. And here I am. So then there's these big boom mics, and the people are getting ready, and there's a couple laps left, and here's the winner. So the winner drives his Indy car in Victory Lane. His fiance is coming in, and his family, and then you look over, and it's Mr. Penske, the owner of Penske Racing, and he's there, and there's a fire, and it was just so cool. We felt very blessed and fortunate to get to do that. So we're pinching ourselves, my colleague and I, Dan. Shout out to Dan, who needs to start his own podcast. So we're just pinching ourselves the whole time going, this is so, I can't believe that this is what we get to do for work. And then one more time they go, "Hey, there's a champagne toast in the Speedway Club," which is the country club version in the ballroom. After everything dies down with the media, they're going to bring the winner, Joseph Newgarden, up into the 9th floor of the Speedway Club and do champagne and hors d'oeuvres. And do you guys want tickets? And we're like, "Yeah." So we get to go up there and do that. And by now it's 10, 11 midnight. And we're like, it was such a surreal experience. And so the thing that now that I've had some time to come off of that experience, it was it's so cool diving headlong into a subculture that you know nothing about. We've talked about on a smaller scale, having one of our buddies come in and talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And I just want to ask a ton of questions. I know nothing about that. I know it's a big deal. I know a lot of people do it. A lot of my geek friends do it. That's something I know nothing about. It's so fun to be that person who knows nothing about something and just soak it all up and take it all in. And it was a very, very cool experience. So anyway, yeah.
At any point were you kind of scanning around the whole track, like just looking around? I looked it up quickly. Capacity is just shy of 182,000 people.
Yeah.
Wow. Assuming it's mostly full. I mean, the Ohio Stadium and Michigan Stadium are both sub 110. So this is another 70,000 potential people than either one of those football stadiums at capacity. Mm-hmm. Did you just scan at any point, like around the stadium? And they're big. I mean,
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So when we were down in the pits in the back half of the race, the second 120 whatever laps, we looked back at the suites that we had just come from. I guess they call that the front stretch, like where the finish line is. And that whole section was full, but like the sides and the back stretch were almost empty. You would appreciate this fun fact. At Texas Motor Speedway, they have Guinness Book of World Records confirmed largest TV screen in the world on the back stretch. So Jerry Jones and his big TV and where the Dallas Cowboys play, this is 70% bigger than Jerry Jones's screens in there.
Take that.
Yeah, take that, Jerry Jones. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Funner fact, do you know why the Guinness Book of World Records started?
Oh, educate us.
By Guinness, the brewing company, to help settle bar disputes.
Bar disputes over...
Yeah, over whatever. What's the biggest... building in the world.
Oh,
What's
no,
the
it
biggest-
isn't. Yeah, you imagine old guys sitting there talking, oh, no, that's not true.
Yeah. So it was started by the Guinness Brewing Company.
Right.
Yeah, that's where it came
Interesting.
from.
Yeah.
In
That
a way,
is
it
a
was the
very
original
much
smartphone.
Just,
funner fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know how, hey, listeners, do you know how fortunate you are? You get to learn. You get to learn so much. This is such an educational podcast. We're changing lives.
Maybe don't put that caption to help sell it. You get to learn.
Yeah.
You get to learn stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
Yeah.
quick question from me. What was it like going 120 miles an hour in a car? And are you out there by yourself? You're not passing other cars. So
Correct.
Does it not seem that fast, or was it?
it did not seem fast. I think part of it is how big the track is. So they were Camaros, like I said. They weren't even like souped up Camaros. They were pretty much just factory Camaros. Because there's no back seat in the new Camaros, it was just the driver and then us in the passenger seat. What you did get to experience, however, was when you turn into those corners, he said, the guy that was driving me around, he said, now watch, I'm not even going to turn. I'm not even going to touch the wheel. And the car pulls you based on the physics and the speed. The car just pulls you out of the turn. Into the straightaway. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, all I'm really doing is making sure I don't hit the wall when it pulls me out, but I am not turning. He goes, the way that you change your trajectory in and out of that turn is just your accelerator. So that's really all you're doing to go in and out of the turns, which I found fascinating. So you imagine 113 miles an hour felt like I was going 60. So how fast those guys are going at 230, what that must feel like, and the physics compounded with that. I mean, it was super interesting.
So did you roll the window down and stick your hand out and do the airplane thing?
I did not. I was afraid. I took video the whole time.
Lost
I was afraid to do
opportunity.
anything else. When I got into the car, he goes, hey, have you ever done this before? I said, no. He goes, cool. My name's Steve. If we crash, my name's not Steve.
Oh, Steve. Classic Steve.
Mud.
Yeah. So that was very cool. Very cool event, and something that, again, I was like pinching myself. I did not think I'd ever get to experience anything like that. It's awesome.
Sweet.
Speaking of diving into worlds we know nothing about, let's talk.
Oh, no.
Let's talk Godzilla. So, Greg, for you, I know you've been a Godzilla fan for a long time. I've kind of introduced you to probably Star Wars more than you would have been introduced otherwise.
Correct.
And your
Yeah.
son Chase a little bit, and to some other fandoms in geek culture. When did you sort of first get into Godzilla? What was it that attracted you about that franchise? Just kind of give us some of that.
Well, my first memory, and I think what a lot of this Godzilla stuff is for me, is just simple nostalgia and sentimentality. My first memory, clear memory, is New Year's Eve. I was probably, I don't know. I was just a kid, grade school. But anyhow, New Year's Eve, they would always show Godzilla versus King Kong. And I grew up in Southern Ohio, Portsmouth. So Giovanni's Pizza is a big thing down there. We'd get like a 16, 18-inch pizza, New Year's Eve, cheese, pepperoni. You know, for me, that was the bomb as a little kid. You know, pop, soda, whatever you call it, Pepsi, Coke, Diet, whatever. It's all in there. But, you know, it'd be like 11:30, midnight after the news went off, and Godzilla versus King Kong would come on. And that was one of my favorites. I have no idea if that was the first Godzilla that I ever saw. But for me as a kid, you know, I smashed up toys left and right. I wasn't the kind of kid that handled them with care. I dropped cinder blocks on them. I squirted them with lighter fluid, burned them.
So you were like Sid from Toy Story.
Yeah, I was. Speaking, Chase and I watched that last night. He got the 4K version, and yeah, I'm thinking that's me. But yeah, I was just always into, you know, mayhem and demolition and chaos and all that with my stuff. So I think for me, the draw to it was, those are two dudes in rubber suits in a miniature environment, stepping on toy tanks and splashing through a pool and smashing model ships and swatting little airplanes out of the sky. For me, I was just like, I could get into that. You know, even where I am right now, as a 55-year-old adult male, yeah, I'd dress up in a Godzilla suit, and I would walk down the middle of my street, you know, Halloween.
Did you know that even then? Did you know even as a kid that this was a guy in a suit, or did you sort of buy into the?
No, I didn't buy into it, because there are just, you look at that and you're not sold on that it's reality.
Right.
That King Kong suit was the worst thing. People still talk about it. It's awful. It's awful. Yeah. And you could see wires holding the jets, and, you know, the tanks would be rolling down the street, and they just had that unrealistic movement to them. Yeah. Trees, power lines, things like that. You could just tell they were.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just kind of the lure of that, I guess, is that, you know, how audacious is it for a group of men to sit around a table and say, we're going to dress up a couple guys in rubber suits, and we're going to film it. This is going to be a big budget thing, and we're going to try to sell this as you know, legitimate stuff. Why was that not shot down? Why did somebody?
Yeah, because I mean, it's so hard.
It's
so hard to find a giant lizard who can act.
That's true. I'm sure that came into it. But for me, and Chase and I, we often joke about this too. He's got the whole collection. He's got everything on Blu-ray now, and whatever highest quality disc is out there with it. We'll watch these movies, and it's just as easy to throw off on them and to laugh at them. The editing, for the most part, is just terrible. The music score is awful. The acting is completely over the top. And of course, we don't even need to go down the dubbing road. That's just comedy in and of itself right there. What we want to see is just the monsters. You know, let's bring the monsters on. Let's get Megalon in there. Let's get Gigan in on the action. Let's get Rodan sweeping down, and you know, let's just see two guys in rubber suits going at it, tearing up a model city.
So from those early days, watching it as a kid on New Year's Eve, did you stay a fan like through your later years in college and young adulthood? Were there other friends of yours that were fans of it, or were you kind of alone in your fandom, sort of enjoying this? What was kind of the
I think I was
around
alone.
you?
I think I was alone in this.
All the other kids weren't breaking their toys, so they didn't relate.
Yes. No, there were moments, or there were years where, you know, growing up and in college, I don't think I saw a Godzilla movie in college. No, I take that back. 84, I saw Godzilla 84. It was actually in theaters. That was one of my before my wife and I were married. It was a date movie.
Yeah.
Godzilla 84. But you know, it kind of came in waves, and it still does. I will always be a fan, but to be, you called me an expert. I would call myself just an enthusiastic fan. I think my son probably knows more about Godzilla than I do.
Oh, you're the best we could get.
Yeah. So, but
Price is right.
you know, it, like I said, there's something nostalgic about it. Those first few movies, I think, just kind of imprinted on me as a kid. You know, there are certain things in your life that kind of curl up in your head or your heart, and they stay there for some reason. I don't know. And I think that's what happened with Godzilla. It was just that memory of Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and the pizza and the fun movie and getting to stay up late and just that kind of time in my life. I don't know. Maybe I just associate all those good feelings, all those good vibes, and Godzilla's to blame. I don't know.
I mean, especially, for the time, the first movie I think was 54.
Yeah.
There was so much less media to consume. I feel like as you were describing that, the original Star Trek series came to mind for probably lots of people. That it was one of the few things to watch that wasn't just the standard Western or military show or whatever. It was different and fantastic and hopeful. And I think that's why Star Trek has probably imprinted itself on so many people, because there was so much less to consume. For myself, I've never watched anything really Godzilla. I remember the Taco Bell advertising campaign in the 2000s with the little Chihuahua dog and running away from Godzilla around buildings. I never even saw that movie, but that's my point of reference. There's this pop culture references everywhere, but distinct memories. It's the little Chihuahua Taco Bell dog.
So 2000, that's the Godzilla that we don't talk about, right? That's the Godzilla that fans don't.
98.
Oh, that's 98.
Godzilla 2000 was a Japanese.
Okay, what was the Matthew Broderick? That was 98?
I think that was 98.
That's the one Godzilla fans don't
I can't
like
call myself an expert because I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's 98. A real Godzilla expert would know, and they would be.
The one you said looks like an iguana that for the most part.
And that, honestly, that was a good monster movie. It had all the elements. It had helicopters. It had people running for their lives. It had explosions. It had the monster running through the city, busting through skyscrapers. It just wasn't Godzilla. It'd be like saying Tom Cruise is in this movie, but there's no Tom Cruise. It was an iguana. It was not Godzilla.
Yeah.
If it had been Godzilla, it'd have been a fine movie, but it was not Godzilla. It was an iguana,
Do you think story, have they made more of a point over time to actually add storytelling elements to not just make it monsters smashing buildings, or is it still pretty much just that?
There's still a lot of human interaction, human drama, but it's goofy. To me, when I watch a Japanese Godzilla movie, it's like maybe sixth graders attempt at filmmaking. I'm like, this is a middle school project. There's characters are forgettable, characters are goofy, storylines are silly. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's part of the campiness that they build into it, or if they truly don't know how to tell a story. I don't know.
Is it just the nature of a monster movie that, look, they weren't here, now they're here, there's some kind of terror, destruction, and we need to get rid of them? Is it just the nature of that arc that there's not a ton of story to tell, unless it's the human drama of it?
Yeah, your audience is Sid from Toy Story, so we don't we don't need.
There's not a lot going on up there, We're
What
is it? Waffles. I've got that whole compartment that's empty.
The empty box.
Yeah, we fill it with.
Well, I'm interested. I'm interested in sort of. It helped. I did a little research. It seemed to help create that monster genre. I think King Kong was 52. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms was 53. The creators of Godzilla 54 said that they were sort of inspired by those first two, but it was also a part of creating a whole new sort of subgenre of films. And then, 10, 12 years later, you have Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and sort of this big thing destroying city. It helped create it, right? I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah, I would say from all those movies, Godzilla is the one that has survived the longest. I mean, we're talking 60 years, started in 60 plus
35
years.
films is what I'm looking up right now that have been made.
I mean, what do we have in American film to compare it? You got James Bond, you got 007, but I don't know how many of those.
Yeah, I mean, the Marvel universe is over 20 films now. That's closing in. But yeah, the Bond films.
But even Marvel, that's not one character. This is Godzilla.
Yeah. I think it is the longest running character in film. I think that's what it said on its wiki page.
Could be.
And it said it went through a few different eras. You mentioned there were times, you and I were talking the other day, you said it's gone through eras where it was sort of like Godzilla interacts with the children in the movie, and he's kind of this goofy Barney-esque character. And then there's times when it's much more serious and darker. There's like sort of 4 major eras of the film franchise. So for you with Godzilla King of Monsters, to bring us back to modern day, like how does that rank for you? Did it deliver on those sort of sentimental fronts? And did you like it? Did you see them try to inject more story like Dillon was mentioning? How did it feel when you walked out of the theater with Chase?
I liked it. I gave it 2 thumbs up. I looked over at Chase at the end of the movie, and he looked at me and said that had everything I needed to see in it. Because we were both a little disappointed with, was it 2014?
Yeah.
A little too much human drama and stuff, not enough Godzilla. So this one, I think, delivered on the monster action and everything along that line. It checked off all the boxes with, the mayhem, the chaos, the crowds of people running for their lives, the jets, the explosions, all the things, hallmark of a big monster movie. A lot of people didn't like the human element of it. For me, I think that's part of it. You got to have some human interest and some characters there. The only thing I wish it would have done was maybe had a battle in the daylight. Everything was kind of at night during the storm, and that was one of the complaints that a lot of people have. Whereas Japanese movies, I mean, they fight during the day, in the middle of the afternoon, at night, underwater, on the top of a mountain. I mean, it's everything there. But as far as this movie goes, it was, for me, it was a solid 9 out of 10.
When you're a fan of something and you can walk out and say that, it ticked all the boxes, that's saying a lot. We kind of talked that about the sort of the challenge that J.J. Abrams is up against with Star Wars, right? Like, oh, you're just doing fan service. Well, at the end of the day, what's really wrong with that? Like, these are the people paying to come see the movie. Right. We're going to deliver that. Why are we using that as a criticism?
Yeah, I totally agree. I not knowing enough about the movies, I wouldn't really know what to walk into Godzilla and expect, other than I almost think of like the video game Rampage from when we were a kid.
Sega.
Like, you had a couple creatures. One was very Godzilla-like. You had the giant, like King Kong kind of creature.
Yeah.
And I forget what the other one or more were. But yeah, you're climbing buildings. You're smashing buildings, smashing cars.
Yeah.
And that was the whole game. It was very basic because that's what we had at the time.
Which they made a movie of with The Rock.
Which they made a movie of with The Rock.
It's a great airplane movie.
I think we can all just assume at this point The Rock is probably in the cast somewhere. It's just a matter of which role he's playing.
He's in about
he's like
one every 3 movies.
He's like one of the highest paid actors in like film right now. It's funny.
Kendall, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that was it. I other than that, like remembering that game and what I just expect monsters smashing stuff.
Yeah.
So anything past that, I wouldn't walk in or out knowing much more.
Right.
But I think for you, if you're a fan and it was a 9 out of 10 for you and anyone's remotely interested in the film, I think that's a good enough nod to go see it, because that's probably one of the truer, more recent representations of what it should be like. And I think there's all this behind the scenes stuff at work. Kendall, since you saw it, I want to hear from you. But ultimately, I think we should circle back to what's the era that it came out of that created this, and what does it represent for people that are like, why is it more than just a monster? Like, why should people care?
And what is it now? Is it different?
Yeah.
Well, and
it's almost a why should I watch
different.
segment. Like, why should I watch a new Godzilla movie?
Right.
For it being a little more niche.
And to address that, they are 2 completely different things. A Japanese Toho Studio Godzilla movie compared to American version. You've got all the CGI. You've got all the bells and whistles and all that. You go back to the Japanese versions, and they're rubber suits.
Right.
So that changes the feel completely, 100% right there. Although I will say the last Japanese Godzilla movie was CGI. They got rid of the suit this time. But when there's a suit actor and you're using miniatures, that just changes the whole vibe of the movie for me.
Right.
It takes some of the seriousness out of it, and it adds just a little drive-in movie campy feel.
Yeah,
to
it's
it.
acceptable camp.
It's just fun. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. I'm a fan of a lot of different movies. I like dramas. I like comedies, mindless comedies. I like Fast and Furious, although they're completely over the top and unrealistic. But at the end of the movie, when I'm walking out after the credits have rolled, did I have a good time? Was it worth $5?
There you go.
Because I go to matinees only. for the most part. But it's like Spider-Verse. Man, that was a fun movie.
Yeah.
That was just a blast. If I'm in the mood for just having fun, there's a whole slew of movies you can choose from out there. So I try not to go in with a lot of expectations and try to be too heavy-handed or too critical of things. If I had a good time, I had a good time.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Of the 35 films, I think 3 were American, 3 were Hollywood films, right? So
it wasn't
Legendary Pictures. Is that the studio?
Legendary and Warner Brothers.
Speaking of the human element, how did Millie Bobby Brown do? I'm a big Stranger Things fan.
I loved her character. I thought she was fun. I thought she was a great actress in this movie. I think her character in the movie was good. There's a scene where she kind of turns around. Godzilla's storming through the city, and there's a lot of rain and everything, and her hair's all messed up. And you've probably seen it in the trailer. She just kind of turns around. She's got this little smirk on her face.
Yeah.
Like, here comes Godzilla to save the day. I thought she did excellent.
Now, is this the same storyline? So the 2014 one had Bryan Cranston in it, right?
Yeah.
And so he's not in this one.
No, but this picks up where
But it ties-
that kind of
it ties in.
Yeah,
Okay.
a few years down the road. Yeah.
Kendall, I'm interested in your perspective, having seen it, but not having an appreciation for sort of the history and all that.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm familiar with is I saw, and now I'm questioning whether it was sort of the original Godzilla movie that what I saw, but it was the campy old
Black and white. It was
black and white Godzilla movie that when I was in high school, a group of us rented it. And watched it, and then nothing until this morning. I saw King of Monsters.
Yeah.
So that's my background with God. So like going into this conversation, like I had some sort of like plot line questions, and now it's like I'm kind of coming to a realization that like that's not the point of these movies, right?
Right.
So it's like, because like I have questions of like, so there's been 30 some odd movies, like, do they all kind of fit together? And then the answer is that's the wrong question.
Yeah. Different directors, different eras, they all have different spins on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes Godzilla is a brand new creature that people are seeing for the first time.
Oh.
Sometimes he's been around for years and he's the savior of the planet. Other
Yeah.
times he's the mean.
So he's
element.
good and
Yeah.
bad?
Yeah.
He's good and bad.
His personality has
in
changed.
this movie, which I don't know how we feel about spoilers. I'll try to be somewhat careful, but the movie's been out for a while. This movie, like you see, like the humans are conflicted very much about not just Godzilla but monsters generally speaking, and you see like different sides of Godzilla. Even I feel like there's been this effort to, as we've talked about before, the three of us, that like if there's a movie franchise that has seen success, it is because of character development. Godzilla, I don't know that I would consider that like a movie franchise, right? Because it's all kind of broken up and different people have taken ownership of different things and that kind of thing. Not a whole lot of character development because they're all independent of one another. This movie, like, you saw character development not just in the human actors, but in Godzilla himself. There was character development that happened there. Because you do see him, like, he is portrayed like the last half of the movie, he's the hero that everyone needs.
Wow.
Is Godzilla.
Yeah.
In its own little kind of weird way.
And there's drama associated with that. Remember, I mean, there was a time where they thought he was kind of out of the picture, and then they have to bring him back. So yeah, there's all those successful storytelling elements that go into it, doubt and fear and drama and, excitement and all that kind of follows that whole storyline.
Yeah. So it kind of has that. It has conflict. There's sort of two separate human protagonists in the story who they themselves are conflicting through most of the movie on what they should do with these monsters. But so it had kind of some of those more filmy kinds of things to them that a lot of us look for, but at the same time, like for the action movie crowd and the thriller monster movie crowd, it had scenes that were just like, that was gorgeous to see.
Yeah.
I still think, though, with all those things taken into consideration, I don't think this is mainstream stuff.
Right.
I think it's like Dream Theater.
Sure.
Dream Theater, excellent group. Love their
a good
music.
analogy.
Their older stuff, especially the newer stuff, is a little more. But they're never going to be mainstream. But they are probably some of the finest musicians playing. Their stuff just boggles my mind. But there's only a certain amount of people that can tolerate 20-minute songs, that can appreciate what goes into it. So I just think this will forever be kind of like the cult following.
Well,
It'll
here
never
anyway, right?
Bust into mainstream.
Right.
I mean, you forget how deeply embedded this film franchise is in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
So yes, that's certainly true here. But I mean, it is synonymous with Japanese culture in a lot of ways. And it's only kind of come in peaks or a little inserted itself into our culture and maintained that sort of cult following here.
And there is a festival. They call it G-Fest every year. I think it is
Of
in
course they have
Chicago.
a convention.
Of course. So, and it's fairly well attended. but
G-Fest?
Yeah, G-Fest. I think it's in Chicago each year.
That's
but,
cool.
they've got the whole vendors set
People
up.
dress up.
Yeah, people dress up. They talk about movies. They have actors from Japan come over.
Sure.
And then they've got all the vendors set up in one big room where you can go in and buy all the action figures you want.
That's
And
awesome.
T-shirts.
I thought it was interesting. It came up as you talk about being deeply embedded into Japanese culture. I thought it was interesting. You brought up the sort of environmental impact element of Godzilla, like part of his creation, and then part of that being part of the plot. Excuse me. And Greg, speak to that a little bit because it came like where it came from. I mean, the initial movie started in the 50s. So why is this out of Japan and why does that matter? Because I think that's part of the interesting backstory to why it's not just a creature film, but why it's so memorable to the Japanese culture.
Yeah, it spoke to the whole nuclear threat, the atomic bomb, Hiroshima. That kind of history, everything that kind of goes back and ties to being a caretaker of the planet and treating it with the respect and tenderness that it deserves. I guess that nature doesn't bow to us; we bow to nature, and that kind of thing. And you see that's kind of like the common thread through all of the movies, regardless of whether Godzilla is a hero or a foe, or if he's fighting other monsters, or if there's more of a human element. There's the whole thing of take care of the planet. Godzilla versus a smog monster. That's a huge example. I mean, it was a monster made out of trash and pollution that was, it was toxic. So Godzilla rises up to do his thing and save the planet. But that's the constant thread through all of those is care and respect for the planet. And, just be careful and treat it with the care that it deserves.
I thought it was interesting. I was reading a little bit about the physical, how Godzilla is physically built, like how he's designed, the look, things like that. And at one point it was talking up the article I was reading was talking about how even the scrapes on like his scaly type exterior were built initially to resemble some of the burn marks of some of the people that survived after the World War II, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was even built to resemble some of those marks and scars and things like that, and that's reflected on his kind of scaly exterior.
I think early on that was a very serious tone of the movie. Now, I don't want to say you've kind of gotten away from it, but during various stages of Godzilla movies or what have you, it kind of got a little campy, a little silly. I mean, there were points where Godzilla was even talking and carrying on conversations with humans and other monsters. So it did kind of take a turn. It became a kid-friendly kind of franchise there for a little bit. But the serious tone is kind of circled back around with this most recent movie, I think.
So
And-
do you like the campiness most because of the nostalgia, or do you like seeing it kind of evolve and change? Do you like those different iterations because they're different?
Yeah, I do. I like change. And it's kind of like we're talking about music, kind of interweaving this with it. I appreciate a music group that kind of evolves and changes their sound a little bit, but you still know who they are. Rush is an example for me. I love their older stuff, but I still love their new stuff, and they are a very different band than what they were when they started out. Godzilla is a very different monster than what he was when he started out, and I, for one, I can appreciate all those different variations and all those different sidebars and avenues it's traveled down. I'm pretty open-minded, though, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just a movie, and it's just a dinosaur. It's not. I don't want to say it's not that important. Well, yeah, it's not that important to me. It's just a movie. It is. I mean, I can enjoy it for what it is, but I like the campy versions. I like the serious versions. If you wanted to put together a sizzle reel of 45 minutes of just monsters fighting, I could do that. I can sit and watch through this new one a dozen more times too.
Yeah.
I've seen it 3 times, so.
If somebody's never
the
seen,
watchability,
is there. If somebody's never seen anything, is there like 1 or 2 movies that would be the best to like?
For me, yeah, I've got like my top 3 or my top 5. I love Godzilla 2000. I love it. They kind of redesigned him at that point. He has a more of a green tone, and he's got these real jagged, huge spines on his back. Just the design for me is pretty cool. I don't know. That makes my inner child smile when I see when I see Godzilla 2000. The story, whatever. But as far as the design goes, that's great. Godzilla 84 or 85, The Return of Godzilla, that's a good one. And then I like these 2 recent.
So do you need to watch the one from 2014 to appreciate King of Monsters?
No, I don't think so, but I think it would help.
Yeah, it would help.
Yeah, I think they fit together well. And I don't know how well this is done in the box office, so I don't know what this means for the Monsterverse. Later in the year or next year, King Kong versus Godzilla is coming out. I think all of us kaiju fans had high hopes that this would do well and that maybe we would see, another 3 or 4 movies out of it. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. If not, at least we've got this.
I feel like there's a lot of anticipation for Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah. Well, Skull Island was good. I like that.
Yeah.
I thought there were some really iconic scenes in that movie when he's standing off in the distance and the Hueys are flying towards him. That was a well done monster movie, I think, and action movie.
And it looks like, and maybe this is already a foregone conclusion, but just because I saw the movie today, there is a post credit scene in there, which tells you that, like, apart from Godzilla versus Kong, like, this story that has been the last 2 movies is going to continue.
They anticipate that anyhow,
yeah.
With that end
which is
credit
good. And because I enjoyed the movie, I liked it. I liked the that take of Godzilla, of kind of seeing different sort of modes of how to take him, how to think about him, and it also in that movie, like, there's like 17 total monsters in that movie, or at least that they reference, and kind of wonder, like, man, they've got a whole universe that they could.
They do. They could really go with it for a long time.
They could take off with this story arc from here, and they've got a lot of room to play.
They certainly do. And it was a nice introduction to the 3 other monsters: Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan. Those are all classic monsters from the Japanese movies. So I thought they started off on the right foot with this.
So it sounds like there's a lot of directions that they can go and play in this sandbox. Greg, thanks for joining us, man. Our first guest.
Yeah.
Sorry we don't have anything to give you, like a T-shirt or something.
That would have been
cool. You want a throat lozenge?
Yeah.
As like a...
It'd be a re-gift, actually.
Take a Coke Zero.
There's a story there. Well, thank you guys for joining us for episode 5. We want to hear from you. Our platform says that we've got roughly 150-ish listeners. So we know that we have friends of the show out there. Please, we want to hear from you. Let us know what you're thinking of the show. Maybe if it's positive, give us ideas, questions, things that you would like to hear us talk about. You can leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/fromthemidpod/message, or use the hashtag thoughts from the middle if you want to ask us a question and just get our 2 cents on it. We want to interact and make this fun. So please let us hear from you. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Ow.